sorry this video is coming out so late. This video took a long time to research. And I'm really busy with school right now. Sorry, I haven't uploaded in a while. We'll see how long this takes to edit. Anyways, hello all and welcome to a new series I like to call Vampire Archives, where we talk about different types of vampire in mythology, media, folklore, and pretty much any place else you can find vampires and vampiric creatures. Really, this is just an excuse for me to talk about vampires because I like talking about vampires and I wanted a place where I could just talk about vampires. I specifically focus on more obscure vampires than vampiric creatures because I feel like we need to have a little bit more diversity in our vampire conversations and vampire representation, because we really only have like a couple varieties of vampires when we are displayed in media, and I want to talk about different types. This is supposed to be a very fun, diverse environment. That is what I want vampires to be. Before we get into the deep of this video, I'll go ahead and lay out some few announcements. Thank you, Brian Regerber, for helping me with this research and topic. He is a University of Memphis professor and amazing scenic designer. He helped me with kind of figuring out where exactly I wanted my research to go, because he also really loves movies and the horror genre, so he really helped me figure out which path I wanted to do my research with. And also thank you, V. All of their social medias will be linked down below. They are a literature and history major and also one of my best friends, and they helped me with my research with some of the history part of this video. Also, I'm planning to get top surgery, and so unfortunately I would need some financial help. So if you feel so inclined to and have the financial means to and would like to, you can check out my GoFundMe down below, where I have my top surgery GoFundMe link. Again, you do not have to, but if you feel so inclined to and have the financial means to, make sure to take care of yourself before you send me money, then it would be very much appreciated. One last thing, I'm just going to explain how I'm going to organize this video, so then if you want to skip around, you know where to look. The first part of this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the movie and its production. Then we're going to actually get and watch some of the movie and discuss some of the movie there. You know, let's hope and pray that the copyright gods don't kill me. Then we'll talk about the 1960s and like the society at the time and the world at the time. Talk about a little bit about the horror genre of the 1960s, and then finally we will actually go into an in-depth discussion about the vampire of this movie and what this vampire could represent. Because as Brian Regerber said to me many of times, monsters are oftentimes a reflection of society's fears. So let's see what society feared in the 1960s and identify what this vampire could represent. So today's video we are specifically talking about a movie called Queen of Blood, or Planet of Blood. It kind of depends on which like title you look at. I think they changed the title because they did a Spanish film festival and they changed it for some reason, but they're the same exact movie. Queen of Blood was a movie made in 1966, directed by Curtis Harrington, and written by Curtis Harrington, and some Russian names I cannot say, Sphinx put them on the board for me, and produced by Roger Corman. The cast includes the likes of John Saxon as Alan, Basil Rathbone as Dr. Faraday, Judy Meredith as Laura Jane, Dennis Hopper as Paul Grant, Florence Merrily as Alien Queen, and Robert Boone as Commander Anders. As you can tell, this movie was pretty stacked, but we'll get into some of the messy parts of it. Now, the movie was released as a double feature next to the movie Bloodbath, which was a pretty common practice for horror movies in the 1960s, because they were usually very B-rated and very, like, cheaply produced, and, this one was no exception, baby. The budget for this movie was about $50,000 to $60,000, which is not a lot of money. I don't know what that is in, like, today's money, Sphinx. Thank you. And it made that money back by about $5,000, as in the box office it made about $65,000. The movie was shot in about 6 days on a non-union work. One of the actors, Basil, was only there for like 1 day of filming. And overall, the actors just had a really hard time staying serious, both on and off the camera. And the issues didn't just stop with the actors, there was also some behind the scenes stuff that was going on. The people who had to build the set only had 2 days and they didn't finish it in time, which would explain why some of these shots and lighting are a little dark. This is a pretty popular technique. Film noir popularized it by having these dark lighting setting areas so that you wouldn't see how cheaply and fast they threw up the sets. There's also a special effect, as you can see from my computer screen, where there are like lasers and lights coming out of the alien's eyes, and they did that by pointing literal lasers and lights into her eyes. Ouch. Like, I know the 1960s didn't have the special effects that we do now, but I feel like there had to be a better way, right? Another fun, quirky thing about this film is it was inspired by the movie which is a Soviet Union film and also goes by the name A Dream Come True. And by inspired by, I mean it is the exact same movie, same exact plot, pretty much same exact characters, just made for an American audience. Something fun about Curtis Harrington is he said that this movie helped to inspire the movie Alien. You know, the movie Alien? Now, I've never seen Alien, because I'm what they would call a pussy, and I don't like body horror all that much. I know there's only like one scene where there's body horror, but that's enough to freak me out. But I do like filmmaking, and so I've watched plenty of videos on like how Alien was made and like all the fun special effects and stuff involved with it and like the writing process. And I'm also a monster lover, so I know a little bit about Alien. But I don't think that statement is true, Curtis Harrington. I don't know. Y'all can let me know. So with that being said, let's actually get into watching this movie. The runtime for this movie is about an hour and 17 minutes, by the way. So we start with these gorgeous title cards that were painted by John Clean, and as well have this beautiful, haunting, sci-fi-esque music made by Ronald Stein. So we start out the movie with some pretty easy to follow exposition explaining that space travel is super common. They go from the Earth to the moon all the time. The only problem is that the moon is kind of a dead planet and there's not really anything there for them. So they're looking for other means of traveling to Mars and Venus, and the people that are in charge of this are the International Space Station. After this pretty standard sci-fi exposition, we meet our main character, Laura, and Alan. Laura is listening to a strange signal coming from space, and they haven't quite identified what it is. Alan, her boyfriend, appears to her and is like, "Hey babe, let's go get lunch." From there, they go get some lunch and chat with friends, but that is quickly interrupted when they are called back up to the space station. Because guess what? They finally deciphered the signal. We also get a good glimpse of the alien planet, which, minus the fact that it's an alien planet which seems to be high-tech technology, seems to be pretty similar to our own planet. We also get a nice glimpse at possibly what the aliens look like. They're kind of in dark shadow, so it's really hard to tell. Like I mentioned, this movie's filmed in a really dark lighting, which can help with the ambiance, but also helps to hide maybe some of the flaws in some of the set design and some of the things that they had to build. I really have to appreciate this set though. Like, I know they only had like 2 days and they didn't finish it, but honestly it looks gorgeous. Everything about this movie is just completely gorgeous. I love everything about it. To be fair though, this is probably a lot of footage from like the Soviet Union film that I mentioned earlier, because they did that. They took a lot of the footage from the Soviet Union film and used it as B-reel kind of, to like fill in some of the spots. They are quickly all informed to meet up in like this arena area. Apparently the message is pretty long. They have a giant packet of paper, but they sum it up to being like, "Hey, we're an alien race from a different planet, but your planet can support our life and we would love to send an ambassador to y'all and, you know, talk with everybody." So of course everyone's kind of excited about this. Dr. Faraday, by the way, is like kind of the lead researcher and head of the department, and he's also like a total dick and I hate him. They have the sphere. They predicted the sphere? Okay, they're delivering the news to the sphere. That's all the sphere is being used for, which is insane that they use their sphere to deliver news, but not. Because that's not how we use our sphere. We use our sphere for advertising. Oh! And here comes the ship. Or maybe not the ship. It's a little small. It landed in the ocean and it just seems like a floating blue beach ball. So yeah, it wasn't the spaceship. It was just kind of like, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like how we have like that gold disc in space. That's kind of what they sent down to us. It has a lot of the photographic evidence of their route to Earth and photographic evidence of their ship and what happened to it. Because obviously the ship's not here. So the reason they sent the disc is because they crash landed on Mars. Oops. And Dr. Faraday is like, "Ah, yes. They are a highly technologically advanced society." Great. Good thinking. So glad you're a doctor. If you can't tell, this is a Hate Dr. Faraday club. Dr. Faraday is now doing the thing that most scientists have to do for most of their career. Ask for money and support. The main goal of this conference is really just to, like, have people want to discover this alien and go to Mars. Honestly, his speech sounds really similar to how a lot of, like, politicians went about, like, the space race and other technological advancements and research. So here we go. All the spaceships are now heading towards the moon to work on the moon station, because the moon, I guess, is closer to Mars than Earth. This is the part that I fucking hate Dr. Faraday for. I'll let y'all decide how you feel about Dr. Faraday after hearing this man speak.
I just received my orders.
Oh, good. Yes, yes,
Are you pleased?
Of course. But I was hoping that Alan Brenner would be on my flight, and I was wondering...
I'm sorry, Laura. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about it. The balance of personnel for this key flight has been most carefully worked over. We shall undoubtedly send Brenner on the Oceano, too.
I see.
It's a great honor that's been bestowed on you, Laura, and I don't mind telling you now that I was one of those who recommended you.
I appreciate that, Doctor.
Ick. This man literally just mansplained her concerns away. Excuse me. Yeah, sure, he might have some valid points, but like... Ew. Hate this man. Like, she's physically upset by this, and he's just like... Be lucky you're even involved in this, bitch. Why you stand like that? Why did he stand like that? So now the crew for the Oceana's journey to Mars includes Laura, Paul, and Commander Anders. It's supposed to be a smooth journey, but as you would expect from a ship that was quickly put together, there seems to be an issue, specifically a sun flare, which completely destroys a lot of the external units. So now they're preparing for the ship to go down. Luckily, they're pretty close to Mars and are able to get into Mars orbit, and with the little bit of like fuel and stuff they have left, they're able to actually finally land on Mars. Dr. Faraday and his crew are concerned about the Oceana, considering that it does not have a lot of fuel to be able to like come back home. So they're talking about having the Oceana 2 get worked on faster so then they can go and send a rescue crew and make sure that the Oceana has enough fuel to get back home. Paul and Commander Anderson are on the lookout for the alien spacecraft, which luckily they find pretty quickly. The commander is the one who's going to actually explore the ship, while Paul is just kind of left alone on Mars by himself. I'm sure that nothing bad will happen. If nothing bad does happen, it's still kind of a dick move, though. So, here we see Paul exploring the now empty and haunting ship. No one seems to be in sight. It's dark and lifeless. Oh! There's a corpse. There's an alien corpse. There was something on the ship. It was an alien corpse. And news has already hit to Earth that they have found an alien corpse. Alan and Tony approach Dr. Faraday and are like, hey fam, we know the Oceana is kind of not in a great spot, and we also know there's an alien. Which is weird considering there's only one alien, when in our video we saw there were multiple aliens. So what if there's another ship somewhere? They mention, hey, we should probably go and get there fast. But of course the Oceana 2 is not ready to be, like, built yet. So I'll just let Tony and Alan explain their plan.
After we put the satellites into orbit, we can land on one of the moons of Mars, Phobos. We'll have plenty of fuel for this because the gravity here is so slight. And from Phobos, we can get to Mars in our rescue ship.
Trevor!
The plan's a go, and they're off to Phobos. And in turn, they're off to Mars as well. But let's see what happens on Phobos before we get to Mars. So Alan and Laura end up talking because the Straits do straight things. She's pretty much saying that if they do not land soon, they'll be caught and stuck on Phobos because there's a huge storm coming, because if you didn't know, Mars has really violent and really aggressive storms. And it can, you know, destroy pretty much anything in sight. But they are quickly distracted as they spot another alien aircraft. Interesting. So the main ship is on Mars. The big guy is on Mars, but this is the rescue ship, which would explain where the other two aliens went during the, like, recording of it. So that's what Alan and Tony have found, is the alien ship. Well, the rescue alien ship. Now the save sequence repeats, but except it is on the, you know, escape craft. No one's there, it's quiet. It's not as dark as the other ships, actually a little bit more lit up. Shit! Sexy alien lady spotted. What's gonna happen? Oh, she just faints. What type of movie progression wouldn't it be if there wasn't some lady fainting? You know? When they get back on the ship, Laura is saying, hey, by the way, get your asses on Mars. You got 17 minutes. Hurry. And answer me, god damn it. So now there's an issue. They all three can't go to Mars. They actually have only the capacity for 2 people. So Alan and Tony are now going to decide who is going to Mars by a simple coin flip. The meteor ship lands on Mars in the middle of this giant ass red sandstorm. And whoever is on this ship is carrying the alien woman through this storm because they crash landed and the ship is exploding now. Just in case, because they know the ship landed, Paul and the commander are actually going to go out into the storm to see if they can find whoever is out there with the alien woman. The commander and Paul are able to find the two. They have passed out and have almost been buried completely by the sand. but luckily Paul and the commander were able to find them just in time and were able to take them back to the ship.
Strange. She seems so human, yet obviously not human at all.
What's the thing that makes her not obviously human? The green skin? Like, I guess that's a non-human trait, is green skin. I guess, typically. We finally get to see who brought her. Alan. Oh, this means that Tony's been left on Phobos. Like, he's just completely alone up there. Don't worry, though. He's having fun. He's collecting dirt samples. And rock samples. Like a true astronaut. And scientist. Now that everyone's back together, they call Dr. Faraday and the moon station and tell them their status, and Dr. Faraday's like, great, get back to Earth as soon as possible, please. Thank you. Now we could see that she is waking up. She's so pretty. She's very enamored by, like, the men, and she's very kind of, like, smirking at them very essentially. She's checking them all out. He seems really happy about these guys. I don't think anything could go wrong here. Alan, hello? What does she think of Laura? What does she think of women? Come on.
Bombastic side-eye. Criminal offensive side-eye.
Seems our visitor doesn't get along very well with her own sex.
Like, damn! Paul has been assigned to take care of the alien woman by giving her food and water. She doesn't seem to want to eat any of the food, but she does seem to drink water, which then promotes the commander to be like, oh, I wonder if she's much more like plant life. I mean, she does have green skin, and she does seem to live off more of a liquid diet, so that would check out, sure. But then they go to try and draw blood from her, which she freaks out about and literally throws the needle away. So the commander responds with, oh, she must have a low pain tolerance. By the way, at this point, they're able to finally get off Mars and are now heading towards Earth. I love her onion-shaped hair. It's just so iconic. Alright, so after that event, they are now assigned to go to bed. I guess it's pretty standard. I never really thought about that, but I guess when you're an astronaut, you do have alarms that tell you, hey, it's time to eat, and hey, it's time to go to sleep, because you're, like, whatever it is, where you see light means to stay awake, and when it goes dark, it means to go to bed. When you're in space, that kind of doesn't really exist, so it kind of makes sense that they have an alarm that's like, hey, it's bedtime, baby. You should be getting to sleep now. I love Paul. He's really just trying to be such a good guy. Paul is the only one that's going to be awake right now because he's the one in charge of, like, watching the commands. And he seems to be really in love with this woman, honestly. He's just like, wow, I spent so much time with her. I feel like I know her. Paul, you met her a couple hours ago. You should chill. Uh-oh. Something feels off. Something scary seems to be approaching. What could it be? Well, the alien lady's no longer in her chair, so that's probably not a great sign. Feels suddenly a hand on his back. He turns around and faces the green alien woman, looking at him with her laser eyes. And then he takes a nice old munch out of him. Now it's the next day. The next morning, they wake up and they find Paul is dead in his chair and drained of blood. They don't really know what caused it until Laura looks and finds the alien woman sleeping in bed with blood on her mouth and her stomach now full of the blood of man. Now the group is discussing what to do about this situation. They have an alien woman who has killed one of their own, and they now know that that is the way that she has to feed. Laura and Alan are on the side of, we need to kill her, while the commander says this line.
Guys, how can we expect her to conform to our ideas of proper behavior? She's not necessarily aware that she has done wrong. Wrong from our point of view, that is.
So that's an interesting line and something I thought about many times, but that's something we'll get into when we get to the vampire discussion. So keep that in mind as we continue on. What the commander has decided to do is that they will keep a watchful eye on her and they will feed her like the plasma blood packs they have on the ship. They inform Dr. Faraday, and Dr. Faraday is on the side of the commander and be like, hey, don't kill her, just watch her and make sure that she's well fed and taken care of, because that's kind of the whole reason we're doing this entire mission. After they hang up, Dr. Faraday tells the moon station, hey, y'all ain't telling anybody about this, alright? Which checks out, you know, corrupted government-funded programs to do corrupted government program things. The commander and Alan are discussing what may have happened and what they need to do. The commander says, oh, we just need to stay awake and make sure that she's fed. But Alan brings up a concern that it seems that Paul didn't struggle. He didn't fight against it or anything. He just kind of seemed like he was just attacked. So the commander responds with the knowledge that, oh, well, people are bitten by vampire bats all the time and never notice. Vampire bats are small. They have small mouths and small fangs. So when they bite you, it's not gonna hurt as bad. But if a person with a human mouth and human teeth bites you, I'm pretty sure you will notice, and your immediate response, typically, if it's not for a fun time, is to say ow and push them away and fight them off. I'm assuming a couple of days have passed. The commander is at his station, you know, logging the day. Everyone else is asleep. We know how this goes. Sexy alien green lady approaches him from the darkness and uses her laser eyes to hypnotize him, and then she feeds on him. Alan and Laura wake up. They see that the alien woman has once more killed one of their crewmates and is now full of blood and sleeping in the bed, so they tie her down. And they once more debate on what they should do. They debate on if they should kill her or not. They decide for now that they shouldn't. They're almost home anyways, so maybe she won't do anything in that amount of time. And of course, they tell Dr. Faraday about what's happening, and Dr. Faraday's like, okay, you know, just stay safe. And when we land, we're gonna do an autopsy on the commander. Hope that's okay. Hey, Dr. Faraday Club, rise up. We are now here. Alan is alone on the ship. Laura is asleep. The alien woman wakes up, sees that she is precariously tied up, and once more uses her laser eye to cut through the rope. The alien woman walks past Laura, and she wakes up because she feels something is off. She looks and finds that the alien woman is no longer in her bed, and she cannot seem to find her anywhere. That is until she goes to the commanding station. Commander station? The log room. The place where they do all the things. Room. Space. And at first she can't find Alan or the alien woman until she peeks behind the big communication centerpiece thing. And that is where she finds Alan being munched on by the sexy green alien lady. She jumps at her, throws her around. In the heat of the moment, she ends up scratching the back of the alien woman. The alien woman looks at the green blood now pouring from her open wound, screams, and runs off. Alan slowly comes to, in the position that I could only describe as me in the fucking morning. Laura quickly patches up his wounds, and they go to see what happened to the alien woman. There, on her bed, they find a small pool of blood, and the alien woman now deceased. While trying to figure out why she died, the first thing that he mentions is that she's probably a hemophiliac, or has hemophilia, which is a blood disorder that some people have, where it makes it to where blood does not clot normally, so it can cause both internal and external bleeding, and thus cause you to bleed out a lot of the time. He also then mentions that she might be a queen, which I don't know where that comes from. Maybe just a lucky guess. I mean, he's not wrong. She is, because that's the title of the fucking movie. But other than that, there's no real signs showing that she was a queen of any sort. Maybe there's a tie with hemophilia and royalty. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, some of those royalties, whew, they get some ancestral blood issues going on. After the alien one's death, nothing else exciting happens. They land on Earth. When they wake up, Alan mentions that we should probably get some sunglasses because our eyes will probably be more sensitive to the sunlight, which is something, again, I never thought of, but that makes total sense. So, Laura opens up one of the cabinets, only to be terrified at the sight of a bunch of alien eggs, where the sunglasses should be. After seeing this, though, she does look around the rest of the ship and finds out there are millions of alien eggs everywhere. I don't know how this alien woman did this. Maybe she did this when, like, you know, the commander and Paul weren't looking, but even then, like, that's... How do you just hide a bunch of alien eggs? Okay, so now he makes an excellent observation that, yeah, she probably is a queen because just of how many eggs she laid and how fastly she did, and that the idea that she was sent to Earth to actually repopulate the Earth with her own population and thus, you know, wipe out the human race because their alien race needs to survive on blood and plasma. Alan and Laura fighting over what to do about the alien eggs. Alan is obviously like, we should destroy them, and Laura's like, hey, we shouldn't do that. That's not our decision to make, and plus, who knows, maybe the scientists can keep them under control. Which leads to, you know, the ending of the movie where the scientists come on the ship and they're like, ooh, alien eggs! We're gonna take them and do research on them and keep a hold of them. Which, as Brian Regerber mentioned to me, this is very similar to the movie Body Snatchers, how at the end of the movie the scientists took the eggs and was like, we'll keep on to them and we'll hold on to them and nothing bad will ever happen. Sure. But after all that happens, Laura and Alan go outside without their sunglasses, I assume to be blinded by the sun, and from there, the movie ends. So, now it's time to get to the discussions. No, if you want to touch the camera, you gotta look at it. Alrighty, so now, let's get into the 1960s. The 1960s was a time of change and revolution and generally a lot of social unrest both internally and externally outside of America. Just to list a few things, there was the civil rights movement, there was second wave feminism, anti-communist propaganda, the Vietnam War, this idea of suburbanization / privatization, a rising counterculture, a push for diversity in media, the space age, hippies, a boom in scientific and medical discovery. There was also the sex boom that happened because of this, because birth control was becoming a lot more popular, so people were having a lot more sex and being willing to explore their own sexualities. The hippie movement also pushed this idea. And of course, everyone's favorite thing of the 60s, drugs. So just to say lightly, there was a lot of shit going on in the 60s, and so there was a lot of like turmoil, again, externally and internally going on. Overall, I think this movie does a really good job reflecting itself of its time. Again, it obviously is a sci-fi movie, so it pushes that space age. It comes from a Soviet Union film. It also shows the idea of a female-led movie. It also does villainize the females in this movie as well, which starts to become a little bit more popular. Our alien queen is also played by a Czech actress, again adding to that diversity. The push for the scientific discovery and the dangers of that scientific discovery. So overall, this movie's hitting the checkpoints. It fits right into the 1960s. The interesting thing about 1960s movies and film is that it came a lot from European inspiration, as again we can tell from the Soviet Union inspiration of this movie. I know the Soviet Union is technically in Asia, but you know, Eurasia. This can especially be seen in the horror genre of the time, as there was a production company called Hammer Productions, or known as Hammer Horrors, that spanned from like 1950 all the way up to the 1980s, and they had a chokehold on the horror genre, especially when it came to monster horror genres that typically dealt with like classic horror movies. And in case you were wondering, what is Hammer Horrors? It's Dracula. It's the Christopher Lee Dracula. So if you say, oh, I've never seen or never heard of a Hammer Horrors production, you probably have. They're like they were the leading components in the horror genre, and especially in vampiric media. They produced so many vampire movies. Oh my gosh. You know how like our generation is dealing with the fact that like Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel are producing so much content? That's pretty much what they were doing here. They were the Fast and Furious of vampire movies. So what was the horror genre of the 1960s? The horror genre of the 1960s had kind of pushed away from the creature features of the 50s and was now leaning into more the thriller side of horror and leaning into where the monsters are no longer the Wolfman or the Thing from the Black Lagoon. They are your neighbor. They are a person who is outcasted from society, whether by choice or by force. They are the creepy rich man who lives alone in his mansion. They're the quiet co-worker. It's the promiscuous, sexy lady who seems to always have her husbands die under mysterious circumstances. The monsters were man. They were you and I. And this horror is also pushed more, as this was the first time, due to the Vietnam War, that people could see man's horrors on TV in their living rooms. So pushing these fears into the horror media was a big thing. But with that all being said, the horror genre, as mentioned before, struggled quite a bit. They were pretty much a lot of B-rated movies, and they were very low budget, just because there wasn't really any interest in horror movies. People were already so stressed out and worried about the world around them that they are living in. Why would they want to go see a horror movie that can just amplify that fear even more and that paranoia more? Why would anybody want to do that? Now I know that some of y'all Gen Zs out there are gonna be like, oh, well, we're traumatized. We have fears all the time and paranoia all the time. And I love watching horror movies. They're so good and fun. Yeah, you're right. We watched 9/11 videos in elementary school, alright? We're kind of desensitized to this stuff. This was the 1960s. This was the first time that they were seeing war crimes on their TVs in their living rooms. So give them a break, maybe? This meant that a lot of the horror movies at this time were being catered to more the counterculture and like the subcultures developing at this time. So that meant the directors kind of had two sides. They were either going to lean towards the counterculture of being like, oh yes, fight the man, the monster is the man, or they were going to lean into the more conservative side of being like, now don't be different. Don't do anything different, just follow the rules, because if you don't, then you're a monster and you're going to do horrible, evil, evil things. So that was kind of the vibes that was going on at this time. Another thing about horror that kind of turned a lot of people off from it was during the 1960s, they didn't really know what and how to censor things, and horror movies love to take advantage of low censorship. So there was a lot of blood and gore, and everyone's favorite, tatas. There were tatas everywhere. We love a good tate. So a lot of the common people weren't really into going to the theater and watching movies that involved a lot of gore and blood and titties when they themselves were very much like, it was a lot going on, alright? They didn't really want to go to see scary movies and see boobies and blood, alright? I will give Queen of Blood credit though. There was not a lot of blood, there's just like the blood on the wrist, and technically she's not nude, she is wearing a very skin-tight bodysuit though. But again, this movie was released as a double feature next to the movie Bloodbath. So, whatever Queen of Blood got for good points, I imagine Bloodbath took away, considering this is the poster. So overall, our general view is that the 1960s had a lot of crazy stuff going on that caused a lot of turmoil internally and externally. The horror genre then kind of fed into this by making people fear the strange and unusual and the thrillers of the world. It fed into counterculture, and overall horror movies were made really cheaply, and they obviously involved a lot of blood and a lot of gore, which turned a lot of people off from horror movies at this time. Alright, we good? Did I summarize that up all pretty well? Great! Let's go ahead and finally get into the vampire discussion. So, I'll be completely honest with you. This vampire was kind of hard to pin down. I ain't even gonna lie. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of the ideas that I had while trying to figure out what this vampire could mean, and you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree, or maybe even have your own theories. So let's get into it. The first thing that I looked at was, well, this is a Soviet Union film, and though it is inspired by a Soviet Union film, I would imagine they still had some American influence. So what if the alien queen is supposed to represent a Soviet Union spy, specifically a woman, infiltrating the American lifestyle and killing off / infecting those around her? So overall my idea was, oh, okay, she's just supposed to represent a Soviet Union female spy. But then I talked to my friend V about that idea, and V said, well, not quite what was going on in the 1960s. We were kind of at this point in between two Red Scares at this point. There was like the big original Red Scare, and then there was kind of like a middle ground area, and then we have another bigger Red Scare later. So right now, there were concerns about like communism and it infiltrating the world, but the populace at large was not concerned about spies being in their homes or female sexy spies infiltrating their government buildings and military and pretty much destroying America from the inside out. This idea was more pushed later on, especially after the Red Scare, because, you know, film bros love a good sexy spy lady. And the KGB, I guess. There are a lot of female spy movies, especially in modern times. The most obvious one is, of course, Black Widow. So then I asked V, well, what was our opinions of the Soviet Union at the time? What V informed me is that America as a whole saw the Soviet Union as a very dystopian, sad, workaholic place. That everybody who lived there was miserable and they had nothing to live for, that all they did was work and clean, and that they were beat, and that it was just a horrible, horrible place to live, and they couldn't have any freedoms whatsoever without their government going down on them and destroying their way of life. Sorry, I should turn that off. My bad. Hold on. Hello? Oh, thank you. The call's coming from inside the house. So overall, the American people were not afraid of the Soviet Union. They were more afraid of like its oppressive government and that infiltrating and destroying the American life.
Hi, Editing Sphinx here. So I talked with V to make sure that I had discussed the information correctly, and V told me that there was a little bit more information that I do need to talk about before ending this segment. Though it was not a huge fear in the 1960s, people did still kind of believe that there were spies everywhere. And there were cases of like spies in the KGB in America and stuff like that. But in 1960, this is after the McCarthy trial. If you don't know who McCarthy is, McCarthy was an American politician who pretty much started the witch hunt of saying everybody was a communist. He had a list of known communists in America. It was pretty much just a list of people that he didn't like, or they didn't believe in his politics and stuff like that. It was pretty much just a giant witch hunt, and it went on for years. He was pretty much the guy in charge of like blacklisting everybody and saying everyone's a communist. The reason that it stopped was because he accused a American military officer of being a communist, which is a big no-no if you don't know. So they put him on trial, and so after that, people kind of had seen through his bullshit and weren't really that paranoid about spies and stuff. Now again, There were people who were, and there were cases of spies in the 1960s. But it wasn't a big human conscious thing, and that the Red Scare at this time, there was still a Red Scare, but it wasn't as severe as it was during McCarthyism.
So maybe the Alien Queen was not a symbol for like a sexy, you know, Soviet Union spy. So then this leads me down to, well, she is a sexy vampire lady. So what if she's supposed to represent the fear of sex? As mentioned before, the 1960s had a huge sex boom thanks to the birth control pill becoming a lot more popular and accessible for many people. And as we know, vampires are oftentimes associated with sex and sexual expression, and even sexual deviancy. And we also have a comparison of Laura. Yes, I know, yeah, I know. Stop booing me, I know. I shouldn't be comparing two independent, lovely females, alright? I get it. Stick with me though. Laura, who is supposed to be this very heteronormative, respectable, intelligent, loving girlfriend, and overall, like, caregiver and woman. While on the other hand, the Alien Queen is this one alien woman who is very sexual, she seems to hate other women, she seems to flaunt herself for men, she's very mischievous, and overall just an evil antagonist for the rest of the characters. So she could represent that, perhaps, that this new sexual independent woman is dangerous, and that we should be more like Laura. Unfortunately, this is not an uncommon mindset for a lot of people when it comes to thinking about, like, revolutions and revolutionists, where it's like, oh, well, this is the good people, these are the people that you should cater yourself towards, and then these are the bad people, these are people that you shouldn't cater yourself toward and should fear. We unfortunately see it all the time in movements, especially when it comes to independence and, you know, basic fucking human rights. What, you didn't think I was going to get political here? Huh? This is Sphinx Secrets channel. We get political here. But then we also go into the fact that they are doing scientific discovery. And scientific discovery can be scary. How far will science go to achieve exploration and discovery? How far is too far? This is a discussion that you see all the time in the sci-fi genre. How far is too far? Maybe that's what this alien woman is supposed to represent. That maybe we've gone too far as man and have reached too far into the stars and have now caused a doom to the world. Or, finally, my last and final theory of what this vampire could possibly represent. Now this one's a little wild, so, you know, stick with me as per usual. What if this vampire is supposed to represent an overall oppressive, blood-sucking, sinister authority? We see Dr. Faraday, and we see how most people do not question him, except for Laura, and even a little bit of Alan questions him. And they are the only two to really survive the Alien Queen, who is another authority figure who literally feeds off them and their skills and their tools and literally drinks their blood. What if this vampire is supposed to represent the blood-sucking nature of an oppressive society and an oppressive government and oppressive authority? So then it wouldn't be implying that if you are complacent within an oppressive society, then at the end of the day, you will be a victim of it, because it doesn't matter where you are on the food chain. If you are below the oppressive government, they will feed off you and drink your blood and you will die. And the only way to stop that is to fight back. Or who knows, maybe she's just a monster. Curtis Harrington said that he wanted to just make a movie about an alien vampire. So maybe she's just a monster. I mean, they were getting away from creature features, but everyone loves a good monster movie. And everyone loves a good sexy monster. That ends our episode of Vampire Archives. Y'all let me know what you think. I want to hear y'all theories and have, you know, let's have some discussions. Just don't be a dick. Also, let me know what other vampires you want me to talk about. I would love to diversify my vampire discussions, and I want to hear from y'all. So let me know. So make sure to do all the dumb YouTube stuff, and I will see y'all, you know, at some point, I guess. I don't know, whenever I post the next video. Who knows at this point. Bye!